New York Knicks legend Carmelo Anthony announced his retirement from professional basketball on Monday, and there's been an outpouring of love on social media for Melo since the announcement. I wanted to take a bit of time to reflect on Melo's career and impact on New York basketball. So joining me to do that is one of the great voices and reporters around collegiate and pro hoops, the one and only John Fanta. John, how's it going, man?
Dexter, it's great to be with you. Thanks for having me. All's well.
Always good to talk some hoops with you, John. And John, when you look back at the introduction for most people to Carmelo Anthony, it was at Syracuse, where he won a national championship as a freshman in 2003. And clearly, he was the best player on that team. What do you remember about Melo's impact at Cuse?
Well, you have to think about the journey before Syracuse even happened when you look at Carmelo, because a lot of guys like a Kevin Garnett, Jermaine O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, Tracy McGrady, Amari Stoudemire, they declared, at a certain time period, whereas Anthony, after his junior year with Carolina, Syracuse all lined up, Carmelo decided to declare early and announce that he would attend Syracuse before his senior year of high school. So he announced that he was heading to Cuse earlier than most, but he actually had a grade drop. A bunch of grades dropped academically in high school. His scores on the ACT were below the acceptable standards at Syracuse. So he ended up, if you remember, transferring to Oak Hill Academy in Virginia and went there for his senior year. It was there that he was fantastic, averaged over 25 points per game, and he plays LeBron James in high school. They struck up their friendship, and, that's how that all started. He ends up at Syracuse, and what he does at Syracuse is nothing short of amazing, because, there were people who thought that due to some of those testing scores, Dexter, that maybe he doesn't go to college, he goes straight to the NBA. No, he ends up staying committed to Jim Boeheim. He goes to Cuse, and what he did there was give Jim Boeheim his national championship. Yeah. I mean, to be able to lead the team in scoring, rebounding, how about over 36 minutes per game played, a 33-point performance against Texas in the Final Four, most points by a freshman in Final Four history. He delivered Syracuse championship glory.
Yeah, he absolutely did. Was tremendous there, and great for the viewers to see and hear about some of those things with him in high school that people may have forgotten about. I want to talk about his scoring prowess for a bit here, because 29,289 regular season points scored in the NBA. For those that didn't get to see him in his prime as a pro, how great of a scorer was Carmelo Anthony?
Well, he had it all. He could score. There's three-level scores, Dexter. He's an all-level scorer in my book. I mean, Carmelo Anthony could just take over quarters, if not halves, with his scoring ability. I don't even think he gets fully appreciated for just how great of a scorer he was. 2013 scoring title. Knicks fans obviously know a little bit about that. And when you think about the way that he came into this league, I mean, when he scored 30 points in his rookie season for the Denver Nuggets at one of those games, he was the second youngest player in NBA history to score 30 or more in a game. You know who the youngest was? Kobe Bryant. So it started, like, he was wired to score from the very beginning of his career. And while Carmelo Anthony, we're not talking about an NBA champion here. We are talking about a scoring champ. We are talking about a 6-time All-NBA selection. We're talking about a 10-time All-Star, and we're talking about a guy who at 6'7" could impact the game offensively anywhere on the floor. You had to love him anytime you watched him play, because he played the game with intensity, and he could just rise above you and make shots at such an elite level. He's one of the scoring greats in NBA history.
Yeah, no doubt about that. No doubt Hall of Famer. That man could score rolling out of bed for sure there, John. Now, Anthony, he didn't deliver a championship to New York in his 6+ seasons with the Knicks. How do you evaluate Melo's time as a Knickerbocker?
Well, I think that when you look at Carmelo, I mean, let's face it, before this season, Dexter, he was part of the last Knicks team to win a playoff series and take the Knicks on a little playoff run. I think when you look at Carmelo and his time as a New York Knick, he embraced the pressure that comes with being a Knick. He made the Garden his. And he has the franchise record with 6 straight games scoring at least 35 points. Not to mention the way he rebounded the basketball. So I look at Carmelo Anthony. He is a Knick great. He was scoring champion while he was a Knick. You average 29 points per game in the 2012-13 season. It's absolutely ridiculous what he was able to do as a New York Knick and what he was able to do making All-Star game appearance after All-Star game appearance. In 2013-14, he led the NBA with 39 minutes per game. And he ended up missing the NBA playoffs for the first time in his career, but he averaged over 27, 8, and close to 4 assists per game. So I'll tell you what, a guy that's an exclusive company in the offensive ranks, he joined the 20,000 point club when he was a Knick in the 2014-15 season. He deserves to be revered by Knick fans, and I think we all learned during this playoff run for New York when he was on hand at the Garden that he is revered.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, that he absolutely is revered, because I was at Game 2 of the Knicks series against the Heat, and Carmelo, he was in the building there. I know you saw this with his son. And look, when they showed him on the Jumbotron, he got the loudest ovation of the night among all the celebrities that were there. The New York fans, they still love him. So I got to ask you this, John. Should the Knicks retire Melo's number 7 jersey? Should it be hanging up in the rafters at MSG?
Well, I think they should. They need to get to Bernard King's as well. He's a name that I also eye. But to answer your question, I think so. I mean, I think that when you look at Carmelo's run in New York and his Knicks career, 7th in points, 3rd in points per game all time, he's got the single-game Knicks and Madison Square Garden points record. Like, come on. Those are pieces of Knicks history. And there are some traditionalists who say, well, he didn't deliver and didn't win the championship and all this and that. I got to tell you, look at these pictures. He lit the Garden on fire, man. He really did. He embraced New York for the great city that it is, and he took on the leadership role for the Knicks, led them to prominence, and he did it while being at the very top of the NBA in scoring. He is one of the best bucket getters in NBA history, and to spend the amount of time in New York doing that, handling the pressure, and really taking on this city, I mean, this is a guy who did it all. Even in the back half of his Knicks stretch, in the back part of it, in 2017, he had a Knicks record 25 points in a quarter. He broke the old record. Those holders, Willis Reed and Allen Houston. I could go on and on with the names, but Carmelo Anthony is in the company, historically, in his accomplishments on the offensive end of the floor, of greats. So for the Knicks, when you look at how loved he is, I got to tell you, the accomplishment level and the way that he took on the city and the franchise, it deserves to get recognized. And I think in a world where sometimes we're very hard when we're thinking about whether or not we're going to retire someone's jersey, I don't know, Dexter. I heard that ovation. I sense the appreciation level. The numbers don't lie. I say, Carmelo, put that jersey in the rafters.
All right, there you go. John Fanta wants that jersey, number 7, up in the rafters at MSG. And you're right, John. They gave him a lot of love that night, Game 2 against the Heat. That is John Fanta, one of the great voices around college basketball and pro basketball. Thank you, John, for joining me to break it down about Melo's greatness as he announced his retirement. Always good talking with you. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Dexter. Appreciate you having me.